Okay, hello from the great Midwest. It is November 1st, 2024, and the topic of this live stream is about what's in the November sky for us to see with the SeeStar S50 or just anything to see this year in November. So let's take a look and watch together. This is a Sky and Telescope's view of what's in the sky to see. Let's watch it and make just stop and make some commentary along the way about what might actually be good targets for the SeeStar S50. Now, a lot of times they're going to talk about, I think they're probably going to talk about the meteors, as you can see, and planets and things like that. But there may be other things really interesting, whether it's with the SeeStar or not, things that you may want to watch. So let's watch what they got to say.
Quick reminder that the United States and Canada returns to Standard Time on Sunday, November 3rd.
Okay, so we go to Standard Time on November 3rd. So that is, according to my calendar, that is Saturday night. We spring forward, fall back. We're going to fall back an hour, so we go to daylight savings
fall
time.
back and all that. Now on to the celestial highlights. The moon's phases are closely in sync.
So let's talk about the moon phases. This looks about like it in November, if you take a look here. So right now we are at a new moon. It means the sun and the moon are really close together. And then we're going to start to see a sliver here on Sunday on that first day of daylight savings time. And then we will slowly see it become full right here in the middle of the month, just about a clone of what happened in October. And then we'll go back to a new moon at the end of the month as we go into November. So we're going to have some great, as long as the sky's clear, which it hasn't been. I had a little bit of a clear sky last night, but hopefully we get some nice weather here, because in the next week and a half, we're going to have some great viewing. If you want to get out with your SeeStar, or just get out with binoculars or whatever else to see the night sky. So let's see what else is going on here. So that's the moon phases. So same as October, beginning into the month, it's going to be the time to really get out there. Now, a lot of people, I know if you're new to this, they think about, boy, I'm going to take my telescope out when that moon's full and get some good pictures of it. And yeah, you can sure do that and get some neat pictures. But the real thing to do, if you've got a telescope or binoculars or the SeeStar, in my view, is when the moon is in waxing mode all the way up to full, because that's where it's most interesting, when you can see along that terminator line between light and dark, the shadow on the light side where the sun's hitting it, where you see the most, I'll call it the texture of the moon, the craters, everything's much more interesting there, and to watch that change night by night. And if you don't have a atlas of the moon, then you ought to get one, or at least have reference to one, so you can kind of see and identify. You can't really see, for instance, where all the moon landings were at. You can see the general area, but it's still kind of neat to pick them out as you see early in the moon's phases as it goes to full, that you can pick all that out. So that's the moon's phases for the month. Beginning and end are going to be the darkest times, obviously, to get out there. And just depending on that weather and how cold it gets, you may be taking that SeeStar, sitting it outside, and come back inside the house, throwing a log on the fire, getting some cocoa or whatever, and watching your SeeStar do its thing.
Sync with the calendar this month, and so keeping track of them will be a snap. We start November with a new moon on the 1st. Watch the western evening sky a few days later for a thin crescent to emerge low in the southwest.
So you see that with Venus as well for most of the month.
First quarter follows on the night of November 8th, and the full beaver moon follows on the 15th.
The full beaver moon. So we got a beaver moon this month on the 15th. I don't know what that means. I suspect it may have something to do with Native American lore. I don't know, but maybe. But it's the beaver moon this month on the 15th.
Last quarter is November 22nd, and we cycle back to new moon on the night of the 30th.
So I'm trying to think, when's Thanksgiving this year? Is it on the 21st this year. I'm almost sure. Correct? Yeah, I think it's the 21st this year. So we'll be getting into third quarter so it's going to be rising really late. Not late, but be rising later and later in the evening sky.
That brilliant full moon on the 15th will be hiding something. Nearly hidden within its light will be the Pleiades star cluster. By eye, you'll have no chance of picking out any of the cluster's glittering stars, but you might see a few using binoculars and many more with a small telescope. From many locations in North America, the moon will actually cover up some of these Pleiades.
So that's kind of cool. That would be an interesting target to use on your SeeStar. So when the moon's full, it's going to be close to, or depending exactly where you're at, it may be covering up some of the Pleiades. That might be kind of cool, and see if you can get I don't know what kind of picture the SeeStar would come up with if you tried to do that. That could be an interesting thing, fun thing to try to do. See what you can get out of it with the SeeStar aimed in the middle of the month. The moon's so bright though, and I think what the guy's talking about there is that it's going to drown out so many stars. It may be hard to pick up anything from the Pleiades. So I'm suspecting the moon might be so stinking bright when it's full like that, you may not get anything out of the Pleiades. You may not see the Pleiades at
That
all.
will happen late on the 15th on the west coast and in the early hours of the 16th on the east coast.
So there you go on that.
More obvious will be the moon's cover-up of the bright star Spica before dawn on November 27th. And this time the lunar phase will be a thin crescent. If you're in the eastern
So I always called it Spica growing up, but he said Spica. That's interesting. But there's going to be an occultation
half
North
of North America,
here.
you can watch both the
An hour
star's
before
disappearance
sunrise.
along the crescent's bright edge and its reappearance from the edge on the dark side roughly an hour later.
So I'm going to tell you that would be so an hour before sunrise on what do you say on the 27th, to get your SeeStar out before sunrise, go to the moon, and it's a pretty tight view with the focal length of the SeeStar, but you could put it into hyperlapse mode, I think. So if you have that in hyperlapse mode and you're aimed at the moon, you might get some pretty cool stuff there. I was able to capture back in September, actually Saturn as it was setting over the moon with my SeeStar. The moon was really, really bright because I zoomed way in, but I could catch it, and I actually got Saturn setting over the moon with it. So same thing here with this star Spica. He says it was Spica to me when I was growing up, so or ever since I've been into astronomy. But that's a definite thing I would think about getting your SeeStar or whatever smart telescope or whatever you've got to get out there before sunrise on the 27th. Hope it's clear and look for that moon in the southeast. So look in the southeast. Hope you got a good view to the southeast and watch that occultation. Let's see what else he says about this.
Those as far west as Denver can still see the star's reappearance shortly after moonrise. Very exciting stuff.
Really cool. That's gonna
What
be
if
really
I told
cool.
you that you could block all ads or get paid to see them?
Okay,
My name's Brandon
Moore.
Moore. I'm an engineer here at Pi, and I've been here.
All right, let's go on, Sky Telescope. What else
November will be one of those months where you have a chance to see all 5 bright planets, though not all at once. Let's start over in the southwest after sunset.
Very cool.
Venus has been lurking low in the evening twilight ever since June, but this month it starts to climb higher and hangs around longer.
So it's going to climb higher and get around, stay around longer. So if you've been into astronomy very long, or most people know that Venus in that evening sky right now, as you look southwest, is really, really, really bright, and that's a time where statistically, like a lot of police departments will get reports of UFOs a lot more, and it's really Venus is what they're seeing. But what he's saying here is the month goes on, Venus is going to start moving farther and farther, be in the sky longer and longer into the evening. So that's kind of cool. What's CU have to say? There's a S50 posted $400 in Fenton, Missouri. You're tempted to grab it. I'll tell you what, that'd be a heck of a deal. Do you have a CU? Do you have a SeeStar at all right now, or do you have any smart telescope at all? I'd go ahead and add as you mentioned that. So you could go to. I really like. I'm not a paid advertiser for anybody. I'm just myself here sitting in Illinois. I love Fenton, by the way. I know Fenton really well. I live off I-70 in Illinois. But you can go to High Point site, and they have used SeeStars there too that they tested to make sure they're fine to buy. Cost you a little more than that, maybe maybe $425. I think there's a few posted right now. But yeah, I'd be. Oh, you said it's in. You said it's in Fenton, Missouri. Okay, gotcha. No, you don't have one. You might look at. Uh, my SeeStar. I've had it for about a year and it works great. But you might want to look at High Point site too. They've got some. I could probably check right now for you. Um, I love the people at High Point. Again, I'm not paid by them or anything like that. But if you go to their site and go over to Smart Telescopes, fantastic people, by the way. You call them and talk to them, they'll help you out with anything. So if I go here and I look down the bottom of their listings, they may have some used ones out there right now. There's one for oh, sold out, sold out. See, they get the used ones in, they go fast. So, $400, that's a heck of a deal. I would be extremely tempted to get that if I did not have a smart telescope right now. So, not advocating for, I can tell you my experience with SeeStar, but boy, they're awesome, especially with that new mosaic mode, which I've shown some stuff in some of their videos about that. But back to what we were talking about. So Venus is getting higher and higher in the sky, and it's going to. You'll see those reports historically go up of more and more UFOs being reported to like law enforcement in the evening. And he's not talking about that all here, but it's kind of interesting. But you can see behind there, it's going to be up into the Milky Way as it comes down to the south. The way it goes across the sky, that's Sagittarius just sitting there. It looks like, or starting to set ahead of it. So let's see what else we got.
As November opens, this brilliant evening star sets 2 hours after sunset, but that stretches to more than 3 hours by month's end.
Yeah, so it's going to be longer and longer.
Now, by mid-November, Venus will be joined by Mercury, but spotting this fast-moving planet will be a challenge.
I have never. So he's talking about as we get into the month, 45 minutes after, later into the month, around dusk, trying to spot Mercury. That would be a heck of a thing. That's going to be hard to do with the SeeStar, I think, or any of those smart telescopes. If you remember with the comet last month, it was really tough to catch it, to get it on the SeeStar. I had to put it into scenery mode and then go up and take some pictures of it to get it. Hey, Scott. Yeah, it's a heck of a deal, and I'm wondering. I think the reliability of them is pretty good. If from what I'm seeing so far, I'm on the Facebook user groups. I don't see too many complaints about them. So, the other thing you might think about CU, I don't know. There's a new model It's just out now, but I think the backlog on it's pretty deep for the SeeStar S30, which is a different one and a little different information, little different specs to that. But you might look at that too, or you might wait, depending on how much you really want it and see some folks may be selling their S50s to get an S30. I don't know. But yeah, I agree. I'm a happy user as well. And with that mosaic mode, wow, that's just a game changer, isn't it? As long as it works and everything, then you're good to go. Mercury, so that'd be fantastic. I might try it, but I just don't think I've never had any luck with Mercury ever. I've got retina issues in my left eye anyway, and I have a hard time picking out something like that. I think I've seen it, years and years ago, but to try to get it on the SeeStar, I don't know. I don't know if he could do it or not. I'd be interested in other people's perspectives on that. Let's see what else he says.
You'll need a viewing location that's completely unobstructed toward west. Start looking 30 to 45 minutes.
So 30. I don't know if y'all can hear this with the guy from Sky and Telescope, but it's going to be really low in the western sky, so you're going to have a good view. I've got pretty good views to the west, south, and east where I'm at in rural Illinois. North's not so great, but who looks at anything in the north anyhow, right? But he's trying to tell you how you can see Mercury
after
here.
Sunset. Find Venus and then look to its lower right by about twice the width of your clenched fist held at arm's length. Mercury will be hovering just a few degrees above the horizon.
I don't know, can you guys hear the
Don't wait too long or it'll sink from view.
Guy here?
Your best window will be the...
How do you like your S50, Vic? Have you had a long time? I got mine in May, and I've had it since then, and I'm just loving that mosaic mode like everybody else, right? If you're part of those user groups, okay, thank you. If you're part of those user groups on Facebook, that ZWO official group, everybody's taking pictures, including me, of M31, and I've hit the Pleiades. Last night, I tried to get some pictures of the North American Nebula in Cygnus, but it's getting so far west, and the clouds were crazy last night. I got some pretty weak pictures of it, but it's just fantastic. Thank you very much for letting me know that. I wasn't sure with this. I'm using this Restream, and I didn't know if it would play audio off a YouTube video. So thank you very much. Let's see what else he has to say about the sky
days
here.
Before and after November 19th. Planet number 3 is Saturn. Make a quarter turn to your left so that you're facing south, and look about halfway from the horizon to
Okay, so Saturn, you all know where Saturn's at as it's rising up in the evening sky here, and he's talking about November overall is just going to be another great month for the planets. Stay on long as it's our tea time. All right, I can't stay on long, but it's tea time, huh? How's the weather there? Have you been able to get your SeeStar out a lot? I was talking to someone in London earlier this week and was talking about the weather and the ability to get the SeeStar out and take some pictures in the sky. So tea time there. I'm guessing you're probably what? What's tea time? 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening? I'm thinking, or 7 maybe.
overhead. Saturn isn't stunningly bright like Venus,
It's a lot
but it
dimmer.
is by itself in that part of the sky and pretty easy to spot. If you're
Oh,
having trouble spotting Saturn, then circle November 10th on your calendar. That night, the waxing gibbous moon passes just 1 degree below it.
yeah, that's cool.
Now make another
So let's stop there for a second. So I've able to get, you guys probably all have done the same thing. I've gotten Saturn and Jupiter on the SeeStar itself too. Saturn's not been so impressive. You zoom into that 4-time mode and I can get it. I don't really stack or anything like that. What's C you say? Well, S50 track terrestrial targets like the dwarf does. Uh, so no, I don't think so. So like I've been watching this Dwarf 3. I'd love to get it, but I think you're talking about on the Dwarf and the videos you see out there that you can click, like say you see a squirrel in a tree, you can tap it, and kind of like you can do with if you're familiar with like who's the drones, DJI drones, where you can just click and have it drag a target. I don't know if the S50 will track a terrestrial object though. I don't believe so. Somebody can correct me, but I don't believe it will. I'd love to get if I wanted that, if I was really interested in that, I think I'd be getting in line for that Dwarf 3, which I'm really debating doing. I'm thinking about actually taking my S50 and gifting it to my grandkids and getting the Dwarf just to try it out. But I don't believe you can track with the S50 at all terrestrial.
quarter turn to the left.
So Saturn and Jupiter, just gonna be another great month, and you can see where where Jupiter's at right now if you're paying attention to the sky every night. So Saturn,
To face
Jupiter, typical
east.
targets, not the
Brilliant
greatest
Jupiter
on
will
the
be
S50
nearing its
because of the focal length.
opposition opposite the sun in the sky early next
Yeah,
month.
so Jupiter's at
But for
opposition.
now, it rises by about 8 p.m. early in November and by 6 p.m. late this month. You won't have any difficulty realizing that you've spotted Jupiter. It's not as bright as Venus, but it does outshine every star in the night sky by a lot. To spot planet number 5, note where Jupiter is.
Mars. Vic, downloaded Mosaic mode, dull gray and mild though. Thinking of those people in Spain. So, oh yeah, yeah. Um, so when you say you got the new version of the SeeStar app, is what you're saying there, right? But yeah, so your weather's a little iffy right now because of everything going on in Spain. It sounds like. Uh, I've used it. I have an Android phone. I've got an SG23 phone. I'm trying to. Oh, I'm not even. Hold on a second. I'm just getting used to this software still. So there I am. Let me pop that up. I was going to show you. I was going to show you. I've got an SG23, and I've got my iPad M4, and I've used the Mosaic mode. I got it downloaded it last week today on my iPad, the new version, and then Sunday I got it on my SG23, and I got my first picture. So I mean, I could show you mine. I mean, everybody's taking great pictures out in those Facebook groups, but boy, my first one, I did these last Sunday, and I live in Bortle. I'm Bortle 3 to the south, and I'm Bortle 4 to the north because I've got a town of about 10,000, about 15 miles north of me. But that's straight off that new Mosaic mode. So I'm pretty lucky where I'm at. So I've done M31 and I've done the Pleiades. And last night I tried to do North American Nebula, and then the weather clouds moved in here in Illinois, in southern Illinois, so I didn't get a lot done. So I'm really hoping I can get out and do some other views there. Oh, you're not even seeing what I'm showing there, are you? I am just a rookie when it comes to this software. Let me trade out so you can see real fast. So yeah, so there's the Pleiades, and there's Andromeda. Everybody's got pictures that good or better mine's without any editing on those Facebook groups. So you can see them. Vic says your Android 2 Motorola. I'll have to steal the Wi-Fi iPad too. I'll tell you what, it's a game changer to me because I think I may have said earlier I've got retina issues in my left eye, and just having that small, even though it's an SG23, it's a little small for me. So boy, having that iPad is a game changer to sit inside, especially or wherever, and have that larger screen. and especially because you can flip it into landscape mode, and it works like you see there. That's just a game changer. It's fantastic. Um, so anyway, that's enough on that. Everybody's got great pictures of that kind of stuff. But let me get back to what else is out there in the sky. So that he's talking about the planets here. I haven't done Mars yet. Castor and Pollux, yeah. Okay, so that's good. So a lot of planetary stuff he's talking about. The highlight of all that, what I took away so far, is trying to catch the moon and I call it Spica, tomato, whatever it is. But trying to catch that later in the month would be really cool to get the occultation of that as the moon and Spica gets really fast. And I think you could get that in the SeeStar would be a cool thing to do. Oh, gosh darn it. Yeah, I'm gonna get lambasted here because I keep forgetting to change back to the screen here. I'm horrible with this kind of stuff. So there we go.
The three bright stars of the summer triangle. Vega, at lower right, is the brightest. Deneb is above it by the width of 2 or 3 fists, and Altair is farther off to Vega's left. I suppose summer triangle is a misnomer because you'll be able to see this striking trio well into December. Turn to your left and look down below Saturn near the southern horizon. The only decently bright star in that part of the sky is Fomalhaut. Now, it's got a weird spelling, and you might have heard it called Fomalhaut, but that's not being true to its Arabic roots. Depending on your latitude, Fomalhaut is above the horizon by 2 or 3 fists. This lonely beam,
Yeah, she's talking Fomalhaut. That's kind of
only
boring
half
here.
as
Let's move
bright,
on. There's
stars
Polaris,
outlining the chair or throne that she's sitting on rather than the
Cassiopeia.
queen herself. The somewhat dimmer stars of
Excuse me.
Cepheus, her husband, are just to the queen's left.
She's doing a review of the
Was to chain
constellations
the
here.
royal doesn't go
Trying to see if he's going to
modest
talk about
display
anything
that
at a
peaks
great
on
great
November
target.
5th. A
Target.
week
So,
later, the
of
12th, marks the peak
course,
of
the
the
Taurid
northern
meteor
Taurus,
shower.
also a weak shower, but this time with more interference from the waxing gibbous wind. In effect, they're catching up with Earth from behind, which means that, unlike the case with most showers, they're most numerous in the evening.
So that's interesting. So most meteor showers, if you're familiar with them, and I'm not trying to tell you I'm an expert at this stuff, but when you watch meteor showers, you'll always hear that it's better off to go out and watch meteor showers after midnight than before midnight. If you're not familiar with that, the best way I know how to explain that is that imagine we're in a car driving down a highway at high speed, and that you have you have you're just going high speed down the highway. Before midnight, it's like the meteors aren't hitting your windshield directly. It's like more behind, the back windshield. So as you hard to describe, but as you get closer to midnight, it's like everything shifts and rotates. So the meteors are now flying right into the front of your car, and they're hitting the grill and the windshield. So you're going to see a lot more. It's the rotation of the Earth and how it rotates into the incoming stream of the meteors. That means you're a lot better off waiting till after midnight till that rotation occurs. And I think he's describing it's going to be a little bit different here with the Taurids, and in the evening you may see some of those the Taurid meteors in the evening instead of in the early morning hours.
Then come the Leonids, peaking before dawn on the
And you got the
17th.
Leonids on the 17th.
This shower's parent comet, Temple Tuttle, tends to create more tips for viewing the night sky.
That's about all he's got. So the interesting thing about meteor showers, I'll share. I first got into astronomy because of the Perseid meteor showers back in, gosh, date myself here, back in 1982, and I had read an article in the Reader's Digest magazine here in the United States. It's a big magazine back when I was a kid, and read about the Perseid meteors. So I've been watching those every year for my entire life. But the thing I'll tell you is that I've never seen, they always talk about 50, 75 over 100 an hour. I've never seen that. I've seen a couple years where it's been okay, but I've never seen anything like that. And especially in recent years, I've just not seen many meteors at all. I saw some last month, a few while I was out with the SeeStar, but not a lot. So anyway, back to the SeeStar in November. I'm seeing what I'm seeing from Sky and Telescope there is that really what I mentioned earlier with the moon, it's going to be so close to Spica that would be a great target, I think, for the S50. But then I think as you're going to see the winter constellations start to come into play, especially the Orion Nebula, Horsehead Nebula, all those things are going to be pretty nice targets there. Um, so it's really interesting. You mentioned earlier, who's the gentleman back there? He mentioned saw one in Fenton, Missouri. Yeah, that's a pretty good price for one. The dwarf for that tracking, I was just researching that earlier, and there's such a backlog in ordering that dwarf 3. I think if you ordered one today, you wouldn't get it until sometime into the new year. And I'm still debating whether to get one myself. I'm really tempted because if I don't, you folks are probably pretty familiar with this. You on your SeeStar, you can put it into equatorial mode, which means you put it on a tripod at such an angle on an equatorial mount that it's aligned with the North Star, the North Celestial Center there, north the pole in the north, which isn't exactly Polaris, a little off, right? But it's close enough if you can get somewhere pointed in an equatorial mount with your SeeStar. It's kind of hard to do. It's not difficult now to do it, but the dwarf does it pretty easily. There's some videos out there of a couple of gentlemen in I think one's in Sweden, maybe somewhere in Netherlands, somewhere like that. I'm not sure exactly where, but he shows how to do it, and the dwarf does it very easily. Now that's important because the SeeStar, as as stars go across the sky at night. So imagine my mouse here is coming up in the east like this, and it's rising and it's aimed a certain way. Well, it rotates across the sky. So by the time it gets in the west, it's at a different angle. So the SeeStar is taking pictures every 10 seconds or 20 or 30, probably 10. You're fighting the urge to message him. Uh, yeah, I mean the $400 is pretty. Is it on Craigslist or where's it at? See you how you seeing it advertised? I'd be really curious because that's more. I'd be curious why he's wanting to sell it too because that is a great price. $400 would be fantastic. And not a big deal. Is he giving you the little leveler that comes with it and a solar filter, anything like that? Would be good to know what you have. Not that it's a big deal, as you're pretty cheap. But anyway, so for the rotation, if it takes a picture of the Pleiades like this, by the end of the evening, so this was, I don't know what time of night this was when I took this. It's 5:06 in the morning. This whole thing, as it moves from west to east or east to west, it's going to rotate a little bit, or not a little bit, quite a bit by the time it's in the evening sky or the western sky later, much more later in the afternoon or the evening rather. And so the SeeStar has to take the picture, and as it rotates behind the stacking software, which is just incredible to me, it's very amazing to me that it still has, or for that price point, you got plate solving basically. You've got this field correction going on where it stacks. All these other things that it does is amazing for the price point. So it'll take the rotation, but in behind the scenes with the software, it takes it and overlays one on top of the other and aligns them the best it can. So you have a picture that looks like this. So this is what this picture I'm showing you here. This was hour 13:30. So what is the helping the math there? That's an hour. So I was doing 10 minutes. So that's six times 60. That's 360. About 300 and what is that? 330 or 40 pictures of the Pleiades there. Oh, it's on Craigslist. Yeah. God, I'm so leery of Craigslist, how legit it is. But you can tell real quickly if you give the guy a call. Do you live near Fenton, CU, or is it you must live somewhere in Missouri to have that pop up for you? I'm assuming, but I don't. It's worth the try for $400. I think. But anyway, with the SeeStar, so the thing I've noticed is that with the mosaic mode, my in size, my sample size is pretty small. I've done the Pleiades, I've done Orion Nebula, M31, so Andromeda, and then North American last night. It seems like the field rotation isn't as bad. And I'm not technically minded, but it doesn't seem like I have those issues before. Yeah, you got tight money on a couple of scopes already. Maybe you got to unload a couple of those scopes. I had to unload a couple of mine. I live near the University of Illinois, just south of there a little bit, and there's an astronomer up there with the university, and I sold him a couple of mine to free up some money. So I'd really love to get an 8SE or something like that, but I'm just going to stretch the SeeStar out the best I can for probably into the spring. Wait till all the hype dies down from the Dwarf 3, and then maybe I'll buy it. Oh, you're close to St. Louis. Okay, you're on the Missouri side, I assume. St. Louis, because Fenton's not far away, right? And that yeah, I know where it's at. I'm on the Illinois side, so I'm off I-70, just east of you. I'm near Effingham. You're familiar with that? I live out in the country, south of Champaign, and way out in the country, and really dark skies to the south. Uh, Boy, well, that's a heck of a price. I think I might be going for it. So the dwarf, though, you may think about it if I don't know how quickly that's gonna or how long it's gonna last for that guy. But I'll tell you, I'm not, necessarily recommending it, but that dwarf is really tempting to me, that dwarf 3. And I would recommend if I were in your shoes right now and I wasn't, you've got a lot of scope, you know what you're doing. Um, I would, man, I'm really considering it. I don't know why I might not do it. Oh, hold on here. Let me pull it up. Replace. Oh, you got a 4SE? Are you not happy with the 4SE, or do you? Because it probably does a decent job with the planets, does it not? Yeah. So I'm looking. I looked at some of the reviews. Here's the guy from High Point.
Hey, it's me, your
Kind
skin.
of got
This
that
acne
mustache
has me
thing going on
craving a
now.
maximum strength cleanse, but will it?
Taking wonderful.
So yeah, I think that you're in Illinois. Okay. So you're Metro East there then somewhere. So we're not too far away. I'm probably about an hour and a half away from you. I'm guessing an hour away. Uh, so the uh, the dwarf is just I think about what with the equatorial it's got that equatorial mode, and I think about what that really intrigues me, that you could go up to maybe 1 minute exposures and just see what else that can really do for me, as opposed to this. I don't go beyond 10 with the SeeStar, and it's got the great filter, and you can take the flats and the darks and all those with that, from what I understand. But I'm really intrigued with it. But the waiting time is just so long right now. Oh, you got the D2, very cute, about the size of a Bible. Yeah, pretty small, huh? Are you happy with it, Vic? Are you going to keep that, or what are you thinking you're going to do with it? Because I could pick one of those up, but I'm going to hold out. And I read on the Facebook groups, people have they put in their orders for the Dwarf 3. My gosh, for way back in the spring, and they're still are getting antsy, wondering what's going on. Use the 4SE for birding, the Dwarf instrument for terrestrial due to tracking. The 4SEs, that's awesome. When I don't know if it was this video from High Point that showed that terrestrial capability, but that's pretty cool that it'll track it like that. It reminded me immediately of my DJI my drone. Like I've got a four-wheeler or a side-by-side that I go for rides on in a state park nearby, and it just just click a picture of me or the side-by-side, and just tracks me the whole. It's amazing. But I can tell you the SeeStar does not do that. It's just not built to do that. The S30 that's coming out, it might be. I doubt it though. It might be, but I doubt it. Anyway, that's uh that's really what I'm thinking is the Dwarf 3. I thought about one of the SEs in 8 SE, but you know, I've got a lot of stuff already. I've got an Aptura refractor, and I sold some of my other stuff, and the one I really want we're probably talking $2,500 before I could for what I really want, and that might cause some marital issues. So I may hold off on that. Let's see. It says I'll keep it. Took on holidays as hand. Yeah, it's easy to take with you, right? It's easy to haul and go take with you places. That's really cool. And yeah, it's so handy, and it's easier than the S50 in that regard, correct? Because that'd be a little hard to haul, but to pack up and throw in a backpack's really neat. All the best. Dinner ready. Hey, thanks for joining, Vic. It was a pleasure to meet you virtually here, and hey, maybe we can chat some other time. I really appreciate it. Have a great day and enjoy your dinner, or have a great evening and enjoy your dinner, and hope you have clear skies. Thank you. Uh, so I don't know. I'm thinking about that dwarf, and I look at it S3, and the new version of the SeeStar, and I don't know that I really see a compelling reason for me to buy that. I just don't see it. I don't know that I understand all the specs and the differences with it. I've read the differences, but I'm just thinking, what does it really buy me when I could get the that dwarf that gives me the equatorial mode? Now I've watched a lot of videos on the S30 and the dwarf both, and the dwarf 3 and then this S30, and it really does come down to that equatorial mode for me with the new dwarf. And somebody'd have to really sell me on why I would want to get the S30 over. See if I can get my internet to cooperate. I'm on Starlink out in the middle of nowhere here. Somebody to really have to convince me not to try this instead of the S30. I think I'm going to go ahead and do it. Worst case scenario, I can get the money. Yeah, I mean you could sell it. I've got people I know that I've talked to on YouTube or in my personal life. I just talked to somebody that I knew in Kansas City. I had a long conversation with them yesterday. They're wanting to get a telescope for their son, and I mean, I could name 3 or 4 people right now that I know would buy an S50 if I just directed him to it. And people that ask me, I've been recommending that, but now that the dwarf is out there, it's like I don't know, for me, I'm probably going to gift my SeeStar, like I said earlier, and I'm gonna grab this in the spring if the shipping times, if the demand decreases and you can actually get one and not have to wait several months. But I don't think you're hurting any. I'd go ahead and get it if that's a heck of a deal. Heck, you might be able to make a profit if you don't like it and sell it for 425 instead of 400. Maybe I don't know. That's pretty cool though. I'm thinking for you, if you're Metro East. Gosh, I'm really curious, what kind of bortle skies you have, and of course, you're probably doing stuff into the east, not towards St. Louis, but in the south, it's probably not too bad depending where you're at. But I've got really great skies east, south, and southwest. But it's amazing. I know a guy in Cleveland, and he's got one, and it's amazing the pictures he can pull out of it in suburban Cleveland with his SeeStar. It's really just such a cool device, and it does such a good job. The thing I really like about all these smart telescopes, and I get people that blast me all the time and say that's not really a telescope. It's not, it's a camera. I think a guy had made a comment on one of my videos, and you know, I, to each their own. But I'm not gonna flame anybody. I had a video out there how sometimes I don't like how easy it is to just go set the SeeStar out and take pictures. But the truth is, gosh, if it's a cold winter night, that's awful nice to be able to do that and not have to sit outside on a cold evening with your telescope. Or I don't have the money for like an ASI Air. I do, but I'm not gonna spend it on that where to spend a lot of money to sit inside and watch it. So, I'm not going to blast anybody for getting it like some really, I'll call them more serious, ardent astrophotographers would that kind of mock the smart telescope. I don't know if you know anybody like that, but I know a few, and it's like these are just toys to people like that. And, again, to each their own, but sometimes I think people have that attitude when they look at like the Sea Star and they, their attitude is that, and I think it's tied up and they've got so much money invested in all this expensive equipment, and now you've got people that really don't have the depth and breadth of knowledge and experience that they might have, and yet they're taking pictures with the Sea Star that frankly are pretty damn good compared to what you can get with much more expensive equipment. Scott, you're saying and you're definitely oh boy, Bortle 8. Wow, yeah. And you, Scott, you're saying you'd love to be Bortle 3 or 4, currently 6. Where do you live, Scott, if you don't mind mentioning? I'd be really, really interested to know. I can't imagine 8 SeeStar, but title photo is dwarf. SeeStar, but title photo. I'm not sure what you meant there, William. Oh, no. Um, I'm not sure what you mean there. We were talking about the SeeStar when we started off here, what was in the November sky, and just kind of talking now after we got through some of the highlights in the November sky, and just kind of talking in general about smart telescopes. I've had the comments that if it's not really astrophotography, how so? Because you spent five. Yeah, I mean that's really what I think when I read those things, Scott. It's like, I get it. You've invested a lot of money in that equipment, and so the bottom line is it kind of stings a little bit to see somebody be able to take pictures with this thing, right? That frankly rival what you can do in my view. And again, my vision's not great. I got retina issues, but to me they look just about as good. You're in Tampa Bay area. Okay, great. Hope you avoided the hurricane. Did that hurt you at all, or were you able to escape that? I was talking to somebody. I do consulting in the daytime, and I was working with somebody who just lived north of Tampa Bay a little bit, and said the hurricane. What'd she say? She was like in a middle of nowhere area, and it completely missed her. It didn't really do any damage at all. So hope that didn't hurt you too much. Um, William, I hope that answered your question there. Yeah, we're talking about the SeeStar, but we're talking about smart telescopes in general. One gentleman here was talking about he had the opportunity to buy a SeeStar S50 for like $400. Let's see you in the chat there, and he's debating whether to do it or not because I don't think he owns a. You don't own one currently, right? You don't have a current SeeStar, and you're thinking about getting one. So he was debating on Craigslist. There was one for sale for $400, and we were talking about that, and then the pros and cons of that. But for the price point, $400, why not, right? But then I introduced the idea of the Dwarf 3 might be another option as well if you don't have one, and it led to the conversation of I'm thinking about gifting my SeeStar to my grandkids for around Christmas time, and then I might get a Dwarf 3 if the lead times drop down. I'm not going to give them a bunch of money and then wait 6 months to get one, but maybe the demand will drop down. Scott says, yeah, we got hit, but not like the Tampa area. You're just south of okay, you're south of the Tampa. Did you say that and I missed that? Oh, you just said Tampa Bay area. So yeah, I watch several people on YouTube just south of Tampa, like in Sarasota, and yeah, Sarasota, of course, and you're in that area. And another guy, I watch some people in retirement because I'm close to retirement age, and there's another guy who lived right in smack dab in the middle of it, and showed his backyard and got hammered pretty hard. So um, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you got hit. I hope it wasn't too bad for you. Uh, so anyway, William, you got a Sea Star, I assume? I'm really interested to know what y'all have, and what your interest in the Sea Star is. No, I don't. Oh, I thought I must have misread you. I'm sorry. No Astro Gear at all. I've always done visual. Yeah, I've messaged him. Worst case scenario, I can get the money back out at that price on cloudy nights. Yeah, for sure, for sure. For an introduction, I was telling this young lady in Kansas City yesterday on my consulting. I do consulting for business process improvement, and she's wanting to get her son into he's got a mild and kind of like you. He's done a little bit of visual. He's wanting to get into astrophotography, and I said absolutely, and it'd be a great thing. I referenced her to exactly what we're talking about here. I said you get the S50, you could look at the S30, but you're not going to get that in time for Christmas if you're wanting to give it to him for a Christmas gift. And the same with the Dwarf 3. But I don't see any. I don't want you to come and flatten my tires or anything if it goes bad on you immediately. But mine's worked great, and I have it out 3 to 4 times a night every week of the year. You don't want me to get a list of you? Oh boy, you've got a lot, huh, Scott? How many you got? I have an old Starfinder 10-inch reflector from back during Shoemaker leaving. I sold it to a guy at the University of Illinois, a retired astronomy professor, and boy, he's got oh my god, excuse me, my asthma's getting me. His collection of telescopes just wow, it was amazing. And he's a retired astronomer, and he collects them. And I don't know why he wanted my little Starfinder. I think it was called, what was it called? Those Meade big reflectors when the sonotubes and the big ass German equatorial mounts. He bought it, and I went up there and gave me a tour of all his telescopes. It's pretty amazing. So you got quite a list, huh? So I got to watch what I say because I'm no expert with astronomy. I've been into it since 1982, 81, 82. And I know enough, but boy, I bet you've got me beat on knowledge of the sky here, which is part of the reason I'm trying to do these lives. It's like it's really interesting to talk to people and see what they're doing, what they know, and maybe learn from other people. I'm the kind of guy that wants to grab onto the knowledge of others who are willing to share it. But then on the flip side, if somebody doesn't know much about this amazing hobby, that they can hop in, and if I can help, I'd like to help out too. but it's all about learning to me. And to me, it's all about the kids too. Trying to get. I spent most of my career working in workforce development and thinking about all those STEM careers, right? So science, technology, engineering, math, and trying to figure out ways to get kids interested in that area. And I said it in many videos. I don't know of any better way at such a low price point to get kids really interested into astronomy, into astrophotography, maybe. So, so that's that. And so the November sky is going to look pretty cool. I don't know that. I don't know that for me, the weather's been kind of crappy here, so I haven't had a chance to get the SeeStar. I had it out last night, but the clouds moved in, and I only was able to. Went for the North American Nebula. I don't think I've got a picture of it on here. I've got it on my iPad. I haven't moved it over yet. You've got a 10 and 16 Explore Scientific Dobbs, Celestron 5SE, a few. Oh, I had an ETX. Yeah, I had my ETX, and I sold that to someone in Maryland a few years ago. And of course, you got the S50 as well. Uh, I'll tell you what, talking about Dobbs, I've never owned a Dobb. Of course, I had that 10-inch reflector, but it was on a German equatorial mount. But I lived for a while in the early 90s. I lived up in southern Wisconsin. And the area I lived was really interesting in that it was between, you're probably familiar with this, Scott, in Rockford, Illinois, there's astrophysics. They make really high-end refractors. I lived halfway between that plant, that manufacturing spot, and then a town in Wisconsin called Lake Mills, where a company called Obsession Telescopes started. I don't know if they're still there or not. So I knew people at that. My next door neighbor worked for astrophysics. So anytime they'd have one of their new refractors ready to go, he'd do first light on it to make sure everything is working correctly. And so he'd bring it out. I'd have a chance to go out and do first light with him. And that was, boy, talk about an incredible experience to see that quality of those refractors on a cold January clear night in Wisconsin was pretty cool. And then the Dobbs, I never got to use any of those big obsessions, but 16-inch, wow, I can imagine. So do you get that thing out much at all? That's a monster, I'm thinking, right? Or do you have it like on some sort of a wheelbase? You can wheel it in and out pretty easily, I'm assuming. 'Cause that can't be very light, I'm thinking. Okay, so that's that. What else do we have here? Let's see. The thing with what was I going to mention? There was something about the mosaic mode that I was thinking about. So, um, what I don't know about the mosaic mode, and if anybody on here knows, is that, oh man, yeah, it was awesome. It really was. Especially the next door neighbor I had who worked for astrophysics. I mean, this is old school, right? He was taking pictures the old fashioned way, right? And the pictures he had on his wall, I can still remember it now. And this has been like 30 years ago, of the North American Nebula on the wall in his living room. It just blew me away. That you think how hard it was to take those pictures back in the day like that. To find a guide star and keep the scope on it and take all. It's just amazing to do all of that. Um, One thing I've been wondering about the mosaic mode here is that what was I gonna say? Oh, it's when you're in the Sky Atlas. Let's see if I don't have mine on. I was gonna connect my SeeStar real fast and pull up the app, but I can't do that this time. It's my SeeStar's off and it's upstairs. But I'd like to, when I get it on there, and when you click on the Sky Atlas, I'll hold that thought for a moment. When you click on the Sky Atlas and say I want to go to M45, it's like, can you change? I think you can change the direction of the rectangle to change the orientation of it, what you want to have it capture images of. Scott, you're saying sadly, no, I don't get out that often, but it's actually lighter than most people think. You got the truss type, just like Obsession, right? It's just a truss tube, so it breaks down really easily. Yeah, and I'm going to go get provided. I'm headed to go get provided. Everything checks out. So you talk to him, see you. You're gonna go take a look at it. Yeah, best of luck. Best of luck, man. Best of luck. Maybe we can get on again. I'm gonna try to do these a little more regularly so we can just kind of chat. But good luck with it. I'm trying to think if there's anything you need to be worried about. I don't know enough about the if it's a used one, the things I might want to look for. Definitely try it out. You can get the app easy enough. And I think with the new mode, Scott might be able to jump in here or somebody else. just test it out on even guest mode just to make sure it's working, you know? I don't know reliability wise if there's anything to be really concerned about. I want to make sure it works for sure, right? So either on his phone or yours or an iPad or something, run through it. And if he's got a solar filter, if it's clear here, I'm about an hour and a half east of you, maybe try to use it on the sun real quick and just make sure it works correctly. I can't imagine it doesn't, but maybe, I don't know. I'm not an expert on these things, but maybe listen to as this part, as the lens starts to extend. Yeah, he's going to demo it for you. Perfect. Yeah. You're going to be good. If he's willing to do all that, I think you're going to be good. Be really interested to see how it works for you, uh, or to listen how it works for you. And good luck with it. So, and my gosh, it may be a clear night tonight. So if you get it, you might be able to go out tonight and take some pictures with it. You're gonna try and at least the solar, and yeah, that would be fantastic. Try that for sure, and then if you get it, hop on tonight and aim that thing east, and by depending where you're at, you probably got better border to the east. I'm guessing if you're in Metro East St. Louis, and boy, you catch a lot of good stuff tonight, just like I was showing on the Sky and Telescope review for the month of November. You could get the Pleiades, you get Andromeda right off the bat, about sundown, just go for M31. And the funny thing in SeeStar with their app, and I don't mean to cast aspersions anywhere, but there's sometimes the you can tell it. How do I say this correctly? It wasn't English was not their first language. For instance, if you go to look for M31, it'll show tonight's best and it's going to show Andromeda. It says like Andromeda Nebula and not not Andromeda Galaxy. So yeah, there's no way it's going to be cloudy tonight, right? Um, NY Raider fan, any chance of Black Friday sales from ZWO? I do not know. And Scott, you may have the most experience of any of us here that's currently on. If anybody else knows, jump on. And I think last year I remember reading they did have some Black Friday sales from ZWO. Scott, do you know if they did or not? I just got mine this spring, and that's my first foray into ZWO equipment. I've always been a Meade and Apertura guy in my past, so I don't know if they. I would suspect they do. Uh, and I'll tell you what, depending on what you're trying to get, if you want that S30, I don't know. You may as well wait till then anyway, because I think the shipping dates are pushed out so far on it. Maybe you hold out, but there may be such demand, they don't see the need to. I don't know. I don't know what their thinking is. They may say we got so much demand and this supply. We're not. There's no reason for us to do a Black Friday sale. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I would also. Do you own a ZW? Do you own anything right now? New York Raider fan, NY Raider fan. You got a SeeStar right now, or anything at all for astronomy? Any telescopes? And Scott says, "No way. You know the rule of getting a new scope. Clouds are going to roll in for sure." And you say, "I think they did, but it was only for dedicated astro cameras." So I don't know if that helps you out, NY Raider fan. I wish I had more knowledge for you on that. Depending on what you have, if you don't have anything right now, if you don't have anything right now, I love the SeeStar is fantastic. It really is. And and I'm not selling myself as God's expert here on this topic, but I've been into astronomy. Scott's got more scopes than me, but I've had many over the years, and I've got to sell them out and get different ones if I want to upgrade because my wife wouldn't tolerate me having all the scopes Scott probably has hanging around his house. So right now I've just got a small refractor and the SeeStar. But if you don't have anything, my thought would be this. If you don't have anything at all right now, you could go out and I think you could get a SeeStar like this immediately. You probably have it there by Tuesday if you ordered it. But I would be thinking on D3 or the S50, not sure which way to go. Scott, anybody else jump in here. And again, take it with a grain of salt. All I know is I'll pull them up here. I know the S50 I've had it since May. Scott, you may have had it than me. So you're saying you could either go with this S50 here or this S30 or the D. When you say D3, is that what you meant, New York Raider fan? Do you mean the Dwarf 3? Yeah. Okay. I think that's what you meant. If it were me, if you're like me and I've got attention deficit syndrome, I'd be buying the S50 just to have it and get to play with it. But I got to tell you, the Dwarf 3, if you watch videos on it, man, for the same price to have that equatorial mode, I'll tell you what, I think, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'd be holding off on the Dwarf. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd wait on the Dwarf for me personally. But I'd tell you, just like there was another gentleman, I think it was a gentleman on here from St. Louis area, CU, is just going out right now to demo a S50 that's for sale on Craigslist. And I think the demand for these things, it just feels like the universe of people loving smart telescopes is just almost expanding exponentially. You're in Bortle 4. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm Bortle 4 most of the directions. You really think I'm Bortle 3 to the south, but anyway, yeah, that's fantastic skies. Or great skies. Yeah, Scott, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I couldn't be happier with mine either. I don't think you can go wrong. And I would tell you again, don't come slitting my tires if I'm wrong. But I think if you didn't like it or you want to upgrade, you could sell the S50 pretty quickly. I think. I mean, shoot. I mean, they're on High Point site all the time. People that are trading in their devices and they're putting them for sale. Of course, they're gonna American picker you and probably offer you $200 for it or something. But you could sell it. I mean, I know people looking to buy the S50. I could think of 3 people right now that are asking me how easy they are to get off. But boy, with that dwarf 3, and I don't know how familiar you are, NY Raider fan, that if you probably watch videos on it on YouTube like I have, and it really intrigues me a lot with the equatorial mode. And I'm not much of a terrestrial guy, but the idea of it tracking stuff terrestrial, that's really cool. It's a really neat enhancement. But I think all these companies are probably racing to have all those capabilities built in. New York Raider fan says, any issues with the latest app update? You're talking about with the Mosaic, the SeeStar upgrade. If that's what you're talking about, I've had it on my Samsung. I've got an SG23. I've had it since Sunday on there, and I've got it on my iPad. I've had it since Friday, and I will tell you, I have not had any issues with it. I'd be curious, Scott. You've had it too. Have you had any issues with the Mosaic mode? Yeah, okay, yeah, I have not had any issues, it's worked fantastic for me, and uh, again, the very first pictures I've got on it use Apple and haven't come across I haven't either, so this is right off my iPad. It looks pretty noisy. Oh, hold on, let me change the picture to you there. Dun, 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 dun. Window there, okay. So that's the very first pictures I started to get off of mine, and it looks pretty noisy there. It wasn't nearly that bad. I don't know what happened, but it works great. I haven't had any issues at all with it. ISO seems the way to go. It works great on my Android too, though. On my Samsung, I haven't any. I just don't like my have on here because I've got retina issues and the smaller screen's kind of hard for me. So having it on the iPad so much easier for me. Scott says he used the Apple, haven't come across any issues yet, and NY Raider fan says seems the way to go. Yeah, I don't think I've seen anything. If you're not on that ZWO Facebook SeeStar user group, there's like 30,000 people on there, and if you watch on there, you learn pretty quickly if there's issues out there. And so you got to separate them, right? Some people, they're new users and they don't really know, and they'll ask a question because they don't know what they don't know. But there's some people. Oh, what happened there? I lost my screen. Oh boy, let's see. So some people don't know what they don't know, so they ask a question. But I'm looking at the people that are on there that really know. I do not have a Discord. I've never got into Discord. I'm not sure. I haven't. I've thought about doing it, but I just don't know enough about it. Uh, why do you say that? CU? I mean, I've messed like with AI imaging, and I've got on the Discords for that for like Mid Journey, but I haven't done anything beyond that. And I hear people talking about using it for this kind of stuff a lot, but I'm just not. I'll date myself again. I'm a little older, and I don't know much about Discord. Is there a particular? I think I know what you're referring to, but I don't know exactly. But anyway, for I would recommend you're probably recommending get on Discord to talk about this stuff as well for the strings on there. I'm assuming. Uh, I just follow the Facebook user group for ZWO, the official group, and there's 30,000 people on there. So I think I learned about the issues pretty fast. But for NY Raider fan, again, don't hold my feet to the fire, but I don't see any issues with it so far. Not for me anyway. I had it last night. I had it out all night. The main thing I've learned that I've had to do is that I leave it out all night. I'm leaving the dew element on to make sure it doesn't frost or freeze over or get moisture on it. And so I bought a Anchor phone charger, the biggest one I could find, and I plugged it in, and I leave that going all night. Scott says I'm in the ZW Facebook group, and man, oh man, they will they'll jump, they will jump up and down with some. They sure do, that's for sure. And NY Raider fan, any issues with the S50 during the winter months, especially in the Northeast? So I think you're referring to because you're in the Northeast, or because you're in the Northeast with the cold months, are you going to run into any problems? I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. I have not had mine through the entire winter, but I will tell you that we had freezing temperatures here. It was pretty cold last night. It was 30s. I plugged in last weekend, and then last night that phone battery. It's a big Anchor phone charger, big one. I forget how many milliamps it is. I plugged that into the SeeStar, and it held 100% all night. So I mean, I had 100% when I started it, and I got up at 5:30 this morning, and it had been busy all night long doing. I had it doing North American Nebula, then I had it doing Pleiades, and then I ended on Orion, and it was 100% all night. And that I don't think you'd have any issues. I really don't. Hey Scott, sorry I need to get off here so soon, but you got a new subscriber. Hey, thanks. And um, yeah, are you by that name on Facebook? I'm assuming you're using your name. I'm not using mine here because I don't know how safe it is, but I'll try to connect with you on Facebook. Maybe we can chat there too. And New York Raider fan, I hope that answers your question. I'm not an expert at it, but you could take my. I don't think you'd have any issues, but you may want to jump onto that user group on Facebook, or I think you may be talking about Discord. I don't know, but you could ask that question there, and somebody with more experience than I have, who's had it longer than I have, might be able to field that question. But I don't think you'd have any issues other than you may want to plug in a battery pack to it. Okay, I'll try to connect with you there, Scott, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. And see you if you got a question, you want to message me with anything. Yeah, if you want to hit me at that email for sure, and maybe we can connect that way if you got any questions. And again, I'm not going to sell myself as an expert. I think I'm a pretty good user of it. Yeah, clear skies, Scott. Clear skies. Hope you get some chances to get a chance to get out and get some shots tonight, get some good pictures tonight. But see you if you want to send me an email. It's across the bottom of the screen there. Maybe we can connect. And again, I'm not an expert, but I'd give you my best advice. But I really highly recommend happy hunt. Yeah, okay. Happy hunting. All right. And yeah, for sure. And to me, it's all about that. Try to help each other out. I was delighted to see Scott got on there because I think he's got a good bit of experience in this kind of stuff too. If he's got all those scopes, he's got some pretty good knowledge, I'm suspecting. But yeah, if you want to shoot me an email, and then I'll shoot you back. And if you got any questions, I'll let you know. I'm trying to think if I know anybody. I used to know some people with the St. Louis in the St. Louis area with their astronomy club, and they used to come out to Lake Carlisle, I think, back in the day. But I haven't connected with those folks in a long time. But yeah, I'm more than happy to help out any way I can. And a New York Raider fan, I hope it works out for you too. Are you in New York City or New York State, I assume, or just somewhere in the Northeast for a new NY Raider fan if you're still on? It's just really cool to connect with people who are into this hobby or wanting to get into this hobby, and trying to create kind of a community where you can kind of talk. The thing I noticed, and the reason I started doing this, is um, I try to do stuff on TikTok, and TikTok's so different that people will hop in on a chat. You have a whole screen of people talking immediately, and Facebook's just not, or YouTube's just not that way. You're in Rochester, okay, fantastic. Um, God, I've only been past Rochester once. I drove through, going all the way to Albany, and then into the whole Northeast. So you've probably got. I'm guessing your weather. You got to get buried in snow in the wintertime, I'm suspecting. you're probably the same latitude as like Chicago or Detroit or Southwest Wisconsin. But boy, I hope that if you're getting one, yeah, you should have a lot of great skies. Unless you said your Bortle pretty high. You know your Bortle level, what your sky level is? Are you right in the suburbs or right in Rochester? You'll see as you look, if you research it, folks that are in pretty big cities, this thing does a pretty good job no matter what. Even if you're in a city, it'll get you some pretty good pictures. Let me see if I can find them here. Yeah, that was me doing live the Pleiades. Not lately. Yeah, the weather been some pretty common or pretty calm winters here the last year or two. So that was Andromeda in that mosaic mode. Your Bortle 4, that's basically what I am to the north here, and to the south. I'm right on an edge zone, so it's kind of Bortle 3 to the south, Bortle 4 to the north and northeast. But yeah, I tell you, I can't recommend it highly enough. It's just a fantastic way to get started into this hobby, especially if you have kids. I've got a couple grandkids, and the minute they see it, and the minute they saw it, it's so intuitive for them. It's easy. They get it. And I tell people all the time, I said it earlier in this conversation, that what a fantastic way to get, grandkids or your kids interested in science, right? In science, or the whole STEM thing you may have heard of. So science, technology, engineering, and math. What a great way to get them involved with it, and just to go out and be able to take pictures like this instantly. You're away from the city, thank God. Yeah, I understand. I understand completely. I drove through there. It wasn't in Rochester, but I drove through. I live in Illinois, right? So I drove through I was going to the northeast. So I drove through on, I guess that's 80. Is that 80 that goes through New York there? It would go from Cleveland over. I forget now. Went through Erie, and then I couldn't believe the traffic around Buffalo. It was unbelievable. I didn't think Buffalo was that crazy, but it was that time of evening I was driving through there, and it was just nuts. I thought, crap, this is as bad as Chicago, I thought. But great area, upstate New York. My son's looking at, he lives in Cape Girardeau, Missouri right now, and he's into astronomy as well. But he and his girlfriend are thinking about going to Plattsburgh, actually, New York, somewhere in the Adirondacks. They're not sure, but I hope that helps. I hope that was or that was somewhat valuable to you on whether to get the S50 or not. Depends if you got ADD like me and you want one right away, or if you're willing to wait. I think it might be worthwhile. If I were doing it again, if I'll tell you this, if I didn't have a S50 right now, I would probably wait for the Dwarf 3 is what I would do. Unless, they tell you the shipping time is going to be like next May or April or something, or May or June, then I'd wait. Let's see. CU. My wife and I go to, I don't know how to say that for sure, Bromalisk Astronomy Park in St. Charles for our darkest sky. Okay, you go to St. Charles. We've driven to the Texas Star. Oh, okay. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Uh, and NY Raider fan, my Rochester friend, you say, what should our good deep sky targets for the winter months? What are good? So, if you look at, that's a great. So when you get into the SeeStar app, if you're not familiar with it, or any of these apps for these new smart telescopes, the app will automatically. I can only speak for the SeeStar, but the app will automatically. I don't think I've got a screenshot of it here, and I can't pull it up because my SeeStar's upstairs. Uh, but it'll show you tonight's best. So it's going to automatically tell you, based on your latitude and longitude, what your best things are to see in the night sky. So whether it's planets, nebula, galaxies, whatever, star clusters, anything, it's going to tell you what the best thing is right now for that month. Now, going into the winter, I was sharing earlier, let me see if I can pull up Stellarium here. Give me just a moment here if you don't mind. Yeah, it is really cool. So especially if you're first getting into it, it makes it so easy. Hold on, I'm trying to pull up Stellarium. It's going to be the full screen of Stellarium. I don't really want that. Let me pull up this real fast to show you. Give me just a second if you don't mind. Let me share my screen. Go here and here. I'm still trying to get used to this software. So if you go to Stellarium, if you're just starting out too, by the way, this is there's a free version of Stellarium, but I'm going to use the pull up in the web version, and then you'll see in the winter sky what's going to happen is that coming up in the east, you're going to start to see this whole thing. I'm sure you know if you're familiar with Orion, it's all about, to me, it's everything that surrounds Orion, this constellation here. So Orion the Hunter, him, right? That's all about this. So the targets here are going to be pretty rich for you, especially down here with the Orion Nebula. And if you get the SeeStar, it's going to show you that it does right now. It's one of the best targets for you. It's an easy target. You can see it with your naked eye. Even me with my bad retina, I can see that pretty easily. That's going to be pretty prime for you. And then up here, the Pleiades, which is the picture. So that's this, and that's the picture I was showing earlier of the Pleiades, one of the first targets I took a picture of with the new mosaic mode. So to answer your question, though, it's not like, the old days you'd have to buy a star atlas and get some education about what you're going to see in the sky for tonight. The SeeStar, and I think all the other ones too, the Dwarf would do the same thing. It's going to guide you right there. It's going to say, hey, this stuff that you may want to think about tonight. It'll call it tonight's best, probably, right? It'll say, it's going to show Andromeda and all these other things as you get farther and farther into the winter months. And it's just a great time. So you really the wintertime shifts, at least for me, from the Milky Way in the summer in Sagittarius and the teapot and all the things in the summer sky that you can see, to it all kind of surrounds Orion. At least for me, it does. And that's what it becomes. This is really, if anybody knows anything about astronomy, or, they really become familiar with Orion. I'm sure you know what that is. You've seen it. And if you're south of, depending, you said you're decent Bortle, yeah, Bortle 4, you're going to get some awesome pictures with the SeeStar if you get it, or any of these smart telescopes, of those things that I just mentioned and more. The other thing I'd recommend as you get into this is that, let me pull it up here for you. That's what I started this live stream out with, was Sky and Telescope. They put out every month the night sky for the following month. And they just put one out for November, which I just played earlier. There's their October. How come I can't find it in November when I want it? There it is, right there. I would highly recommend just doing that. And I did it for October, November. I'm going to pull it up and just kind of talk about it every month as we get into the new month. That's October. Okay, hold on just a moment. Yeah. Get out of there. Well, I won't review. There's November right there. So they'll review the sky for the month ahead of time for you. And I kind of just walked through at the beginning of this live stream of what I thought would be good targets to use with a smart telescope. A lot of the times they're just going to talk about, they'll pull up a sky map like that. No, hold on, let me share it again. I am so bad with that. I got to get much more professional on this stuff. So they'll walk through a sky map, and they'll show you. So that's the summer triangle, but they'll show you for the month what might be most interesting to look at. Now they're not doing it from the smart telescopes perspective. This is just sky and telescope. They're just showing what's cool in the night sky to see in November. But through that, they're going to give you nuggets of things that might be really cool to aim your SeeStar at, that the SeeStar may or may not, in its tonight's best, catch some of this stuff. Like they went through here earlier and they talked about, if I can find it, I think it would be a really cool thing with the SeeStar to do here. So end of the month, an hour before sunrise. This is something I would try. There's an occultation in North America, which means Spica, or Spica, they call it. I call it Spica. The moon in the southeast before sunrise is going to be really, really close, and I think it'll look like Spica is setting or disappearing behind the moon, which would be really cool to capture. I was able to get that captured last month, September, that is, I was able to capture Saturn doing that over the moon. And I think if your SeeStar, when you go to the moon, there's a mode that'll say go to moon. Boom, it's going to go and pull up a nice picture of the moon pretty fast, and it's going to look good at this phase. And then I think you should be able to pick up Spica with it. And if you put it, there's a mode on SeeStar. You can take a picture, or you could take a hyperlapse, or you could take a video or whatever. If you turn it on and start recording a video of it, you could capture the star, that star Spica up here, setting behind the moon, which would be really cool. To me, that would be really cool, but I'm kind of a nerd with that kind of stuff. But that's definitely a target in November I would be thinking about or preparing for with the SeeStar. That's probably the best thing I saw in the November sky of this whole presentation Sky and Telescope made. There's other things too. They talked about some of those the Orion that I mentioned earlier, and the Pleiades. You can get the Pleiades now. You don't have to wait right now. They come up probably 20 degrees into the sky by 9 o'clock for the last month or so. But those. I hope that answers your question. The app will help you out a lot. But I love Sky and Telescopes, and High Point Scientific does the same thing. They'll show a review of the sky for the month. They usually put it out the last day of the month prior. Or today, I just noticed this one came out from Sky and Telescope for the month of November. So that makes it a lot easier. I hope that helps out. What else? That was the big one I saw there. I'm trying to go through here and remember if there's anything else I thought was really cool. Yeah, of course they were talking about Orion, just like I was sharing there, and Jupiter's really close there. Now, if you're just getting into smart telescopes, if you're not familiar with it, and please forgive me, I'm just you may know a lot more about it than maybe I'm going to say here, but don't expect if you get a smart telescope, the SeeStar or the Dwarf or Unistellars or who's the other one? What's that company called? They make the Vespera. I forget what it is, but I don't have that one. But any one of those smart telescopes, the focal length of that thing is not really built for Jupiter, for planetary. It's not built for that. You're not going to be happy with it. You're not going to see a big stinking picture of Jupiter on your SeeStar. It's going to be really small. You could zoom into it like 4 times and make it a little bigger, but it's not going to be in your face like the moon. It's because of the focal length of it. You'd have to get a different scope with different, f ratio on it. But it is perfectly designed for what I'm talking about, or what it's really designed for nebula, galaxies, star clusters, deep space stuff, DSOs, which is where what it shines at doing. And I try to remind people of that as they get into this, because if they pop it on there, they're going to say, "Well, that sucks. I thought Jupiter would look a lot better than that." Well, the moon will look great, the sun will look great, and those deep sky objects, like it's just gonna blow you away when you first get this thing, and you find how easily you can do that, where you can do a picture like this. And I'm not an expert, right? I'm just a regular old Joe, but when you get a picture like that, you know, I can tell you, I've been in astronomy. I mentioned it earlier since 1981. It's 82 when I was a teenager, and I never dreamed I could get a picture like that. And back then that'd probably make the cover of Sky and Telescope or Astronomy magazine in 1982. I little old me went out with a SeeStar and got that picture one evening. What date was that? On the 26th of October, just like that. And again, I don't know if y'all have kids or not, but to have even a teenager or a child get out and be able to take a picture like that, think about what that does for their mind. It's like they look up and they see, you can't really even see Andromeda in the sky. In really dark skies, if you avert your vision just a little bit, you can kind of see the smudge in the sky. But to take that picture and how it stimulates their mind, that's really powerful for me too. I'm not a kid, but it really stimulates your mind, right? And you start thinking about cosmological stuff, but really neat stuff. It's really cool. And because of the I call it the interactivity of it and the simplicity of it, It's just such an amazing device. And for me, I'll be honest, it's kind of rejuvenated my interest in getting back into astrophotography because uh, I, I keep using my that crutch of my vision. But I've tried to get into editing photos. I always gave up because I couldn't do it very well. How when you get into Photoshop and you got to the RGB and all that and the histograms and trying to pull colors and I just can't do it. I'm not very good at it. But this is I'm gonna make another run at it here through the winter as my consulting work slows down in the winter. Hopefully, I'm going to get more and more into this and try to do some photo editing. Uh, are you an NY Raider fan? If you're still there, I was curious. So I forget what you said earlier. You're just considering the S50 right now, or did you say you're thinking about the D3 too? If I remember correct. Yeah, you said the D3 as well. I hope that helps. If, just to be honestly with you, I love the S50. Given how quickly I think all this is changing and how all these companies are racing to make improvements to it, if knowing what I know now about smart telescopes, I'd hold off, I think, and really think about the D3. Unless you know, you're just rolling the dice and it's $400, go ahead and get it and sell it and get the D3 when that comes out. But that's kind of my plan. I'm gonna as I keep mentioning, give mine to my grandkids, and I'm probably going to buy the D3 when it's not quite so when supply and demand kind of balances out, should we say? But who knows? If I see a Black Friday sale, like I think you mentioned or asked about earlier, and there's a great price, yeah, okay, I might pre-order one then and hold off and expect delivery sometime in the spring. I'm guessing. So anyway, um, see you. I hope that goes well for you, and you get that thing. And yeah, shoot me an email at that address below, UTR Midwest. I'd be happy to help out any way I can, and maybe I can catch some of you folks on Facebook on that ZWO user group, which is fantastic. I've learned a lot on there. I feel a little inadequate with some of the pictures people put out there and some of the knowledge some of those folks have, but boy, it's just a great way to learn. My God, before social media, you either had to get involved with astronomy groups or go to the library and read books like I did when, before, because I live so far. I'm so remote in Illinois. I'm like, 4 hours from Chicago. I'm 2 hours from St. Louis. I'm to the south. Memphis is the closest city for me. So I mean, I'm really out in the middle of nowhere. So I had to really teach myself all this stuff. There's no user groups or no star parties to go to that I was familiar with anyway. So it's just such a different world today with all of this stuff. So I hope that I hope you got some use out of this stuff, and I'd love to see this group grow a little bit bigger and just kind of let's talk about communities on YouTube. I really hate that word, but that's what we call it. But I mentioned earlier, I love the idea of, being a resource for people that are trying to get into this hobby, and then for people who know more than me, maybe I can learn stuff as well. Like the gentleman who was on here earlier from Florida, I suspect he's got pretty good knowledge. That's Scott. I suspect he's got some pretty deep knowledge in astronomy and maybe learn some things from people like that as well. So I've been on here an hour and a half, and for anybody who's been on here, I really do appreciate you coming on to here. And I'm going to try to do these periodically. And I was going to try to promote them on Facebook, but I'm not a PT Barnum and want to go out and do that kind of stuff on somebody else's page like that. So I don't know if I will. I mentioned a couple of times on there. I'm doing things on YouTube, but I don't want to come off like a shyster salesman. So I'm careful about doing that thing. But anyway, it's a pleasure to meet you all. A New York Raider fan, if you want to shoot me an email too, I mean, I'm happy to help out. But you feel like you're pretty. It seems like you're pretty knowledgeable just trying to get started here. You know what Bortle is. A lot of folks don't know what that means. So but I'm happy to help out any way I can. And I'm going to try to do these periodically. I'd love to do a live one in the evening where I was practicing yesterday in a live where on this part of the screen over here, I had my SeeStar app on my Android, and the rest of the screen was Stellarium so I could show where I was in the night sky. And my objective was to just to show the whole workflow for getting the mosaic set up on some objects in the sky. So if I get some great skies this weekend, I may try to do that. And I'll hop on and do a live at that point. If it's late at night or early in the morning, I'd love to do that. And maybe there's people that can give me pointers on how to do it more efficiently than I am when I'm in that sky atlas. So I'd show how it works, how you do the mosaic framing, how I'm doing it anyway. And then maybe there's people on them and say, "Hey, dummy, you're missing this step," or "Why are you doing that?" or "Do it this way." Just to me, it's all about the learning. So if it's a clear sky tonight, I might hop on and try to do that and show what I'm doing, and maybe it's helpful to somebody else. But maybe I'll learn something too if somebody hops on and can help me out as well. So I appreciate you for anybody hopping on here, and it's great to virtually meet you all. From looks like we had New York and we had Florida and St. Louis area, and gentleman from Ireland earlier who he, he had to go for dinner. I think his wife was getting on him about chatting on YouTube versus having dinner. So, anyways, a pleasure to meet you all, and I'm going to sign off here, and hopefully be able to interact with you some other time. Thanks so much.